Eavan Boland fucking died. Do you know who that is? She's a poet. I study her for the Leaving Cert. I'm not happy she's dead. I'm just saying I didn't enjoy studying her for the Leaving Cert. Being adopted by the Leaving Cert syllabus must do irreparable damage to the career of a poet. Because if you think about it, poetry is useless. And school is the place you go to as a child where you are forced to do things you wouldn't do otherwise. You're forced to learn things you wouldn't otherwise want to know about. Why the fuck do we force poetry down the throats of children? I understand information technology. I understand business. I understand biology. If you want to be a doctor, I understand we need these people. Do we need poets? It's just a question I think about sometimes. President Michael D. Higgins has led tributes to poet Eavan Boland. Michael D. Higgins is balls deep and all that, isn't he? Michael D. Higgins loves poetry. Do you reckon if one of the lads from Versatile died tonight, Michael D. Higgins would lead a eulogy? Because Versatile aren't allowed on RTE. Why would they be? People like them. Eavan Boland would have been allowed on RTE because she wrote nice poems about nice things we're supposed to think about. She displayed an extraordinary ability to invoke Irish landscapes, myth and everyday experience. There's a media class, isn't there? We like learning about everyday experience as long as it's the right kind of everyday experience. What about this? Custom made Calvin Klein's cause me flute is too long, selling crack rocks bigger than the thumb of King Kong. I'm a scumbag and I know I'm in the wrong. Wrecking people's lives to buy Louis Vuitton. You don't get nice eulogies if you talk about that. If I was a dictator, as I'd like to be, do you know the way Adolf Hitler killed Jews? And do you know the way Lenin killed the rich people? Do you know the way the Asian guy Pol Pot killed the intelligent people? I would kill the poets. Poets are the most annoying sect of people. Do you reckon people are sadder that Eavan is dead, or happier that she won't be writing any more poems? People have this tendency when somebody dies to exaggerate how much they love them, both famous people and normal people. Have you ever been at a funeral where you were close to the person who's died and you're grieving and you notice some cunt pretending to sort of get close, pretending to sort of have had a connection to the person who's dead? It's one of the creepier parts about Irish life. People did that when Seamus Heaney died. But my contention is that people don't really think about poets. And the poets that people think about are the bold poets. The Russian dictator Lenin said something wonderful about artists that I'm not going to be able to find on Google. But you know what? I'm going to try my bloody best. He marvelled at the idea that they could produce such beauty and at the same time live in such filth. Because of course artists are poor. Let's look at Eavan's poems. She had a famous one called, I believe it was called The Watermelon. What's the big ones we learned in fucking school? This is going to be a flashback. Flashback city coming your way. The only legend I've ever loved is the story of a daughter lost in hell and found and rescued there. Love and blackmail out the gist of it. Who has the bloody time to go around fucking figuring out what this means? Do you know that feeling of like when you're finished the Leaving Cert and all of the information you fucking learned off by heart? There's this weird, beautiful feeling when you leave that exam hall. You say to yourself, most of it didn't come up on the exam. Most of the learning was for no reason. And all of it I will be able to completely forget from this moment forward. It's just like fucking... That's what I'd write a poem about. Not having to read Eavan's poems anymore. Let me read out Child of Our Time just for argument's sake. I'm just going to try my best here, boys. To make our broken images rebuild themselves around your limbs, your broken image find for your sake, whose life our idle talk has cost a new language. Child of our time, our times have robbed your cradle. Sleep in a world your fancy was woken. I couldn't tell you if you fucking paid me what that means. But it's not to say it's shite, you know, it's not to say it's shite. I like poems by Charles Bukowski and people like that. He wrote about fighting and fucking women and being depressed and being ugly and gambling and drinking, being an asshole as well. And he wrote funny stuff, and I like poems like by people like that. Anyway, thank you so much for watching the vid. Hope I haven't pissed you off too much. Just like to keep it real with these vids. So if there's a silver lining in Eavan's death, it's Perhaps she would have written a poem about this coronavirus pandemic. I'm sure a lot of poets are clamouring to the pen, so we don't know what we've been saved from in that sense. Listen, rest in peace, and thanks.